So let's kick these off, Shannon. So just to introduce you, Shannon is a bid design coordinator working for Stanway Interiors, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
So Shannon, just to kind of give us some insight on your background, what would you say was the hardest thing about transitioning from a different industry into the design world?
Mm-hmm. I think the hardest part of transitioning was learning the architectural lingo. I think when you come from an entirely different field and go into like an architect practice or construction, like you soon realize that everyone talks, well, it feels like everyone's talking in a different language. They use a lot of acronyms, abbreviations. So I think it was just sort of getting used to the terminology. And then also, like in terms of the bid side of it as well, because you're sort of dealing with a lot of contracts, there's a lot of legal language as well. So I think it was getting my head around that really was the hardest part.
But what's good is that you did get your head around it, and you've been in the industry for quite a while now. So for those that are listening and watching, what are the key traits and skills you think you needed to make the adaptation?
I think number one is perseverance, 100%, because I remember like it was probably a month into the new job, and I was literally in tears. I was like, I don't understand. I'm not cut out for this. And I think it's perseverance, because at the end of the year, like my confidence grew so much. And I think as long as you've got sort of a passion for the built environment, and also hold sort of skills like organizational skills, and like you're a people's person, and you know you can manage a team of people and get all the information that you need. I think those are really the essential parts of the role, and everything else you learn, like the amount I've learned in the past 3 years is actually crazy, but my confidence is just sky high in comparison to when I first started.
Amazing. So, you know, the way you've sort of jumped into the industry, and it has been a process, and as you rightly said, there has been a transition that you've had to make. Do you feel that there should be more ways of people entering the industry rather than the conventional routes of going to university, studying an architecture course for 7 years or a planning course for 3 years, and then coming out and being a certified, you know, planner or architect?
Yeah, 100%. I think that there needs to be more of an effort in high schools to educate young people on the opportunities that are out there that doesn't involve going to uni. Because I know certainly when I was, 17, I felt so much pressure to go to university, but I didn't actually know what I wanted to do. I knew I was creative. I knew I had a bit of a business mind, and I liked architecture, but there wasn't one thing that really was like, yeah, I want to be an X, and at the time they never really pushed apprenticeships, and also they sort of really made out that if you didn't have further education as a whole, then basically you're going to be stuck in a dead-end job, or like stacking shelves in Tesco's, and it's just not the case at all. I was kind of fortunate because I was poached on LinkedIn, but before I was approached, I had never ever heard of a bid coordinator. And I think that there needs to be more done in high schools, like get people in, like myself, like other young people in architecture practices that, perhaps haven't gone down the conventional route, to sort of speak to young people, empower them, and make them feel like you don't need to spend 50K and dedicate 7 years of your life and do an architecture degree in order to be in an architect practice, because it's not the case, and there's so many different roles within a practice. It's just a case of saying it, like just letting people know and promoting it.
I mean, that's really it's fantastic to hear you say that, because what you're effectively sharing with us is that you don't necessarily need to be on paper the perfect stereotype, but you might have transitional skills which would make you suitable for a role in the sector. And I just want to touch on that really. I mean, if someone were to ask you what you love most about your current job, what would you actually tell them?
I think the one thing that I love is the people, because you come across so many different types of people in an architect practice. You've got the designers, the managerial roles, accountants. So it's really interesting. You get such a diverse range of people. And I think, secondly, I absolutely love with bids, you have these deadlines, and it really keeps you on your toes, because you're not just working on one consistent long project, for example. It's sort of probably monthly deadlines, which really keeps me active, keeps me engaged. I enjoy working under pressure. And then I absolutely love the creative side of it. So when we get a tender through, I'll read through it, do some research on the client, and then I've created a bid template, but I also tailor the bids so that it's sort of client specific, and you think of really creative ways to sort of represent what they're looking for, like using Illustrator to create a graphic, or just picking out some of their key themes on their websites and sort of mirroring that in our proposals. So I think it's that, the diversity, creativity, it's really good.
Okay, I mean, just slightly moving on now, in terms of, well, sticking with design and the built environment and places, where would you say is your favorite place in the world, and why?
I think my favorite place would be Oslo Opera House. It was really, really cool, because basically it's like built so that you can actually walk on top of the roof. And I kind of love the fact that when you think of architecture, you think of yourself looking at a building, but I loved how involved it was with the people. The fact you're not just looking at it, you're walking on it, you're appreciating it. And I just think it's a really modern piece of architecture, and I could kind of see, more built environments similar, where it's, it's not just a stagnant building, it's a lot more involved and interactive with the people. So I think that's my favorite.
I think you're absolutely right. I think there is definitely going to be a conscious effort to moving towards, buildings and places that engage and sort of use the people that enter or come to visit. So that's definitely something we're seeing more of. I think that's a really, really good answer. I wanted to get your opinion as well, just on, obviously there's a sort of small disease going around at the moment known as coronavirus, and
is there?
Yeah, there is, apparently. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but yeah, seems to be making a few headlines at the moment. But I just wondered how the virus might change the way you work going forward. Have you sort of given them insight, or have you given some thought into how you'd want to adapt how you work, and how, I suppose, Stanway Interiors would want you to work going forward?
Yeah, I think the way that, the change that I think will happen is, I think, just more flexibility around how we work. So I can see myself working remotely a lot more, but, I think as a bid coordinator, I think it kind of works well for me, because I don't have to be in a physical office to do my job. And I think that's what a lot of people are actually realizing is, they're paying all this rent for everyone to sit in one building. And actually, I think that format is quite out of date. It's something that we've adopted from hundreds of years ago, when internet didn't exist. So it's like, why are we still doing it this way? Why are we still putting all this money into offices, when the internet, there's the internet, there's Teams, Zoom, there's just so many different like virtual platforms that we can collaborate. And then I kind of think in the future, I think pop-up offices and pop-up meeting spaces will be a thing. So again, even though we have got WeWork, it's still like very much like a stagnant building. But I kind of see in the future pop-up places where, it might be like a quick modular, or like what them shipment containers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, things like that of just okay.
Like Box Park.
Yeah, like Box Park, exactly. So just a lot more versatility and like an agile way of working. So you kind of, you know, if you do need that space and you need to have the team all there, you can like rent it for a month, you know, or have like a monthly contract kind of
No,
way of working.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's definitely something we're going to probably see more of, in the sense of not owning the building that you live, not owning the building that you work in, but trying to, I suppose, find a short-term space where you can get your team together maybe once a week or twice a week. And I guess the other question is how important your local area will be, because if you are only going into the office very sparingly, you'd also want your local area to be full of stuff that suits you, right? So like maybe it might be the right coffee shops, it might be the right sort of health stores, that kind of thing, restaurants, markets. You'd want your local area to be built up in a way that caters for people who aren't going to necessarily go into central London as much.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. I think we're going to see more, especially within like the suburban parts of London, like just pockets, like small pockets, and like you say, they'll be filled with everything that we need, but instead of having this one, you know, central, you know, we know central London, it's got everything that we need. I think it's very much going to be filtered. And have little mini
Londons all across London, basically.
Exactly.
That's the ideal scenario. But it is quite scary though, because I'm seeing quite a few like restaurants closing and bars that were open before lockdown. There, a lot of local businesses are struggling. So, you know, I hope by the end of the year and sort of first part of next year, there will be quite a few local retailers who are still alive or still able to actually function going forward. You know?
Yeah, I think that's a sad part of it, because, you know, the businesses that suffer the most are the independent businesses. And I think that, you know, we were getting to a place where we were seeing a lot more independent businesses and we were supporting them. And now it's sort of, I kind of feel like we've regressed in the sense that the chains are going to be left and the independent shops, food places, they're sort of going to be a little bit more sparse. And I think that more should be done to protect those rather than keep the chains, in all honesty.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's well, to be honest with you, you know, the likes of Pret-a-Manger probably wouldn't want to hear you say that.
No, I was literally just thinking that there's a Pret on every corner.
Yeah.